Welcome, strangers, to Talkumentary, a show where we watch documentaries and then get together and talk about them.
Hi, welcome to Talkumentary. I'm your host, Brice Necker. And this week we are talking about Anvil, the Story of Anvil. It is a documentary of the heavy metal band Anvil, and it runs an hour and 20 minutes long. It was made in 2008, and here's a little synopsis. Since 1978, Anvil has become one of heavy metal's most influential, yet commercially unsuccessful acts. In 2006, after a fledgling European tour,
You're doing
Anvil
great, Brice. Keep it up, buddy.
record their 13th album and continue to follow their dreams. All right, so I got the screen down here, right?
Uh-huh.
And I got the microphone right here.
And you can't
my
see your
eyes are
screen?
going, yeah.
Trying to look around from both sides.
Sorry, DJ.
Welcome to hosting, sir.
Yeah, this sucks.
So for all of our listeners out there, this is our bonus episode from, if you guys will remember back a few weeks ago, we had a contest where one of our beloved listeners did some social media jockeying to win a spot down here in our den. And if you remember, Brice and I unveiled the winner, and it was his sister, Abby Necker. So, Brice, introduce our guests, sir.
All right, our guests for the week. We have Abby Necker, my sister.
Hi.
Necker, my sister. Hi, Abby.
I'm Abby Necker, his sister.
Hi, Abby Necky.
Necky?
Necky. Abby.
Abby
Necker. The sister.
My sister.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah. Glad you were here. Glad you wanted to do this. Thanks for posting about us on the interwebs. And you brought a guest with you, someone who is near and dear to both Brice and your hearts, from what I understand.
A man who's not uncommon to being dragged around to things.
Yes, I'll do anything for a free shirt. Is there a free shirt?
Mark Means. Yeah, well,
Mark Means.
It could be a free shirt.
Okay, I'll do anything for a free shirt.
I don't need
You're
this many
offering
shirts.
like my shirts or
It's
what?
kind of sweaty and gross, but
We're in my house and you're
free.
offering shirts. That's interesting.
and our a first-time guest, Jeff
Jeff
Kolaski.
Yeah. Yeah. So we kind of switched it up a little bit today. Brice said, I'm going to host. And I said, you really want to host? And he said, yeah. And I said, do you think you could, are you going to like do it? And he goes, as long as you don't care about the quality of the hosting, then yes, I can do it. And I said,
Yep.
let's do it, buddy.
Yep.
So it's all you, my friend. What did we watch?
We watched Anvil, the Story of Anvil,
Yeah.
We sure did.
which was a monumentous moment for heavy metal and Canada as well.
Yeah. Abby,
Yes.
Brice, I'm sorry. It's really hard for me not to like butt in here on your hosting here.
Mhm.
You chose Anvil, the Story of Anvil. And this was only after we told you no Ken Burns. And that was only because Brice said that you are very big on historical documentaries that probably last longer than 3 to 4 hours. So he said we need to make this a stipulation here that we don't
Yeah.
go too long on this.
If you can watch extended Lord of the Rings in the same time frame,
Oh, man.
maybe,
Yeah.
shorten it to like 4 hours.
Is that something you like to do, Abby, is watch Lord of the
absolutely.
Rings extended edition?
Yes. It has to be the extended edition.
Okay, so
Back to back.
why Anvil, the Story of Anvil, before we get into it?
Yeah. I remember watching it years ago when it was probably initially released. And I'm like, who is this band? Why have I never heard of them?
Right.
And so it intrigued me. And after watching the story and seeing everything they've gone through, I've just been like, someone rooting for them this whole time, wanting to see them succeed.
Yeah.
And so I kind of, forgot about them in true Anvil fashion.
Yeah.
And recently, this past year, they re-released the documentary, and I was like, oh yeah, Anvil. I remember I forgot about them.
Yeah.
Again.
And it was such an awesome documentary that I remember. And so I watched it again. I'm like, oh, this is incredible. It's so inspiring.
What year was this put out again?
This was put out in 2008.
Okay, so that's older than I realized. When I got on to Spotify after watching this, what was their album called?
Metal on Metal.
No, the one they were working on, 13th.
This is 13.
This is 13. That's not on Spotify. I don't know why, but it's not.
That seems to be not surprising.
Yeah. So and I don't know why that is, but there was a lot of stuff that was much newer than 2008, which is interesting. So, I don't know. They're still going, I guess. Which, if it was 2008, that's quite a while ago. So
good on them.
Yeah, they're still going.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brice. It's your show. Sorry. Not used to being quiet over here.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jeff Kolaski. Killing it per usual. We've all met up this evening to discuss the larger-than-life band Anvil and the documentary about them and their struggles to make it in an industry where they've been overlooked since the 1980s. And they've been going at it since 1978?
Yeah, sounds right.
That's yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Their biggest thing they had going for a long time was their tour to Japan in 1984,
which was fucking sweet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pretty ridiculous.
That show looked awesome. So who did we have on there? We had Scorpions, we had Whitesnake, and we had Bon Jovi, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Dude, it doesn't get much cooler than that when you're talking early 80s metal.
And most importantly, Anvil.
Oh, and most importantly,
they probably thought at that point, this is going to launch our career, when in reality, what happened was that was the peak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they didn't even know it.
And it was kind of the stepping off point for some of those bands.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it maybe not completely stepping off, but they weren't any less talented or any less, interesting. If anything, it was more. I mean, the guy's playing a flying V guitar with a vibrating dildo.
Right.
So, which, if I can jump ahead a little bit, my biggest disappointment about this documentary was the fact that when he went back out, he wasn't still wearing the bondage harness.
Right.
He's just wearing a t-shirt. Like, oh, come on, man.
Nobody wants to see a 55-year-old wearing
I disagree.
bondage clothes.
Yeah.
Well, one person does.
Yeah.
Jeff does.
When you start balding, you start wearing that
do-rag thing.
That do-rag the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Can't blame him, I guess.
The Bret Michaels thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Wait, Bret Michaels is bald?
Wait, nobody
No.
has seen him without that bandana.
No one
in
knows.
There's no
30 years.
evidence.
the hair's probably attached to the bandana.
Yeah, right.
He takes it off, the whole thing comes off. I don't know.
Takes it
It's
off
more
the shower.
convenient that way.
Yeah.
You think he showers?
No,
No.
I was just kidding.
Oh, well, one thing I just want to get into here is Anvil versus Spinal Tap.
Mm.
Because the whole time I was watching Anvil, I was thinking, is this a real thing or is this a work of fiction?
It had a feel about it like it wasn't real.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I could believe it,
Yeah.
but only so much that, and then I was like questioning it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think part of that is that any rockumentary traditional that we've seen, it's always lifestyles of the rich and famous. I mean,
Yeah.
it's always the successful things. They'll show a little bit of the dip down. You know, there's always they get super successful, then the drugs,
The rock bottom.
Yeah.
and then they come back for a great end to the rockumentary. But you were seeing things in there that were pretty raw, and most people wouldn't want filmed, and
Yeah.
so it almost seemed fake.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think when you get into some of the the darker spots in a band or an artist's history, those aren't the things that you're going to necessarily want to show to everyone. You like show them my rock bottom, but then show my rise to fame.
Right.
You know, well,
Yeah.
these guys didn't necessarily get that. It started with their rise to fame, like you mentioned earlier, Mark. And then it's kind of downhill from
And
there.
we weren't sure what was going to happen next.
No.
No, and you, Brice, you were not the only one questioning that when they were actually making the film. I listened to a podcast about this. Strangely enough, another podcast. Big fan. But they were interviewing Sasha, the director, and his cameraman pulled him aside and was like, okay, this is a joke, right? Like, these are actors. This isn't a real band. Like, they thought for sure it was a joke, and they weren't for real.
The guys filming it were uncertain.
The first day filming in Prague, he pulled him aside into another room and said, okay, these are paid actors, correct? And he's like, no, this is real. This is Anvil.
This is
Couldn't
Anvil.
believe it.
I'm
So-
surprised it wasn't called This Is Anvil.
Right.
Yeah. The Anvil, the story of Anvil,
It's a better
This Is
name.
Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
Which they played in Japan in 1984, which was the year Spinal Tap was released.
And so the year I was released too.
Yeah. So
Wow.
that's
To debut you.
it's been downhill for Anvil since Jeff was born.
Coincidence?
You know.
Yeah.
I would also like to mention that This Is Spinal Tap runs an hour and 22 minutes. Anvil, the story of Anvil, runs an hour and 20 minutes. So coincidence?
Pretty close.
I don't know.
Okay,
I don't know.
if we're going in the vein of comparing them to a fake band, Spinal Tap,
And I think we should.
Okay. Did you notice when they were recording the
They
This
turned
Is
it up to
13?
11?
They turned it up to 11.
Yeah.
There's no way that wasn't on purpose. I wrote that in my notes. Like, they actually turned them up to 11.
Right.
There's no way they didn't do that on
Right.
purpose. That you got to imagine that the filmmakers were sitting there going, "This is too much like the movie that came out in
Right.
'84."
Yeah.
You know, but this is real life. You know, but I will say, it would be really funny if someone was able to, you know, if you could get everyone in on the joke, basically, to where, like, you're even going and talking to Lars Ulrich, or you're going and talking to Slash or whatever, and they're in on the joke, saying, you know, Anvil was my, you know, to the point where I would have loved if this was a documentary that was sold as it being a real thing, but it never was.
Right.
Like, when you said, I was looking at it because I couldn't figure out if it was real.
Yeah.
That would be so good if it wasn't real.
Right.
It turned out to be awfully sad because it is real, but also, you know, a lot more entertaining that way. But
Yeah.
you know, but I would have liked it even more than I did if it wasn't real.
You have to mention the fact that the drummer, his name is Rob Reiner.
Uh-huh.
The director of Spinal Tap, Rob Reiner.
That's correct.
Weird.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Even more weird is This Is Spinal Tap was Rob Reiner's directorial debut, and Anvil was Sasha Gervasi's directorial debut.
Huh.
Wow.
Weird.
There's a lot of parallels here, like Stonehenge.
Right.
You know, two guys who are basically brothers, growing up playing music together their whole lives.
So is this real?
That's I don't know.
Also, JFK's secretary's name was Lincoln. Oh, wait, no. Wrong conspiracy.
This might be another glitch in the Matrix.
Yeah.
But yeah. And both bands have a terrible tour and then find success in Japan at the end.
Right.
I don't know.
Is there too many similarities here?
It's a lot of similarities.
Hmm.
I don't know. I'm rethinking my life all of a sudden.
But Anvil has over 13 albums and Spinal Tap only had 3. So
I think they're at like 20 now.
Yeah.
Or coming up
It's
on
20.
20.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
yeah.
It's going. It keeps going.
a new one each year. Let's go.
Absolutely. You got to admire them, though.
I
keep
knew
going.
of
Absolutely.
Anvil in '85 would have been the first that I heard of Anvil, and I was kind of interested in them. That wasn't exactly my genre of music, but they seemed, the way they were portrayed in their videos was a band that really didn't take themselves too seriously. Like it was a little bit of comedy mixed in. And it was, again, that kind of feeling like, is this real? Like, is this a spoof thing?
Yep.
These guys are strange and they're
Well,
Canadian.
the fact that you remember them from then, as a person who's not involved in this film, gives me some hope that they were actually a real band.
Yeah.
That it was just too coincidental.
Yeah, they
'Cause if you remember them, there's no way, at least I don't think, that this could be that long running of a prank.
of a prank.
Yeah.
Is it maybe the Mandela effect though?
Right.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Could be.
Yeah, they were they just briefly on the radar of the average listener in the 80s, and then just gone. As fast as they came, they were gone. And I hadn't really thought about Anvil again until the movie come out, and I'm like, what? Is that the same Anvil?
Did you feel like there was a lot of albums you needed to catch up on right away?
You know, okay, honest opinion. The songwriting is not super deep. The lyrics, not super. I know. Not super deep. I don't require that, I guess, in a band, but I'd like something a little more.
Yeah.
But musicianship and stuff like that. Oh,
Whoa.
there is an
Yes, Jeff
Anvil
did
has been
just
set
bring an
among
anvil
us.
into the room and dropped it on the table. I meant to do that earlier.
Things
let's be
just got heavy.
Whoa.
Fun.
Faux pas.
Abby, what was your initial thoughts on Anvil's music?
The music, it's definitely not a style I would normally listen to.
What?
I know, shocker, right? Because I do love a lot of metal and that type of music, but
Yeah.
But not necessarily
not-
like hair metal,
yeah, I like some. I like some. I'll listen to some Metallica and that's that sort of vein of music, but it's not like my go-to music.
yeah.
But I can appreciate their musicianship, like
Rob
Reiner. Yeah.
All day.
Yeah.
Like you
he's
could
amazing.
say whatever. I mean, not to take anything away from Lips and the other guys and whatever. Put Rob Reiner up against any of the drummers
Yep.
that they were talking about, from Anthrax to Slayer to Megadeth, all them. He's in the same vein.
Oh,
Right.
You know, and when he was 50 something, he's still hitting that double kick like it's nothing. And he's barely sweating up there.
Right.
And now as a drummer, I'm going, I stopped playing for a couple months and you'll see me over there dying on my set,
Right.
you know, sweating to death. I can't keep up. And this guy's going, that's fine.
Right.
Like, what? Like, yeah, I agree with you. He was the most impressive part to me. His demeanor, his willingness to support his friend, even though he's getting treated like shit. Then he finally stood up for himself at that one point and was like, I'm just tired of being your fall guy. I don't understand why you're always like, it's because I love you. It's because I love you. I gotta have someone to blow up at.
Right.
Like, do ya? maybe show him some support too there, bud.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was such a great aspect of the documentary, I thought, was when they interviewed the families and
Yeah.
that kind of relationships that you don't normally see. Like he's in the backyard playing badminton with his son,
Yep.
Lipses, and that sort of dynamic, and his, you know, Rob's sister is like, "Oh, this band is over. They need to stop." And the wife's like, "Well, maybe, you know." So it was really
still
cool.
have dreams. She's like, I still have dreams of maybe being the rock star wife and all that. She's like, clearly I still like the hairstyles,
right?
As she has like this feathered out, blown out, bleached hair,
epic hair.
Yeah.
Any other rockumentary, if he was playing badminton with his son, they would have rented a mansion and a fancy backyard, and there would be a swimming pool. And I mean, there's not a lot of money that's been made in the Anvil world at that point of filming. I still don't know if there is, but it's very rare for a band to let someone in and see that level of struggle, financial, family, relationships, all that stuff, which kind of by the end of the movie, you're in their corner. Like whether you like their music or not,
all day.
You're like, I just love Lips. That guy is so cool, and I just want him to succeed, whatever that is.
He might have some toxic emotional problems, but Rob, he is his rock.
Yeah, yeah, for real.
Lips is like, if this doesn't work out, I might go jump off a cliff. Rob's like, nah, we'd stop you.
I won't let you. I won't let you.
That's dedication, man.
Yeah. And Lips is so like hopelessly positive in spite of the situation around him all the time. Like he would jump off that cliff and be talking about the next album on the way down to the ground.
This is going to make me famous.
Yes, exactly. Once this gets out, this is going to be great for our career. This is going to launch our career.
He would be writing guitar parts just on the
exactly. Yeah. Everything around him falls apart, and he's just always about the next thing and positive, and this is it.
So everyone here is in a band or been in a band at some point. If someone...
Is that true? Y'all are you guys?
Oh, yeah.
True.
Very good. Nice.
If someone contacted you guys from Europe and they just had a tour booked for you, would you go?
Hell yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Prague, what were them cities? I'm like,
Romania.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's I'll jump in on that. So the band that I was in, we went on one tour, right? And it was awful as far as the music went. Okay. Not like what we played, but there was most of the shows were either not advertised or not, there was no one there. I mean, we literally played for the bartenders in more than one of the places. It's, but I didn't care. We didn't care. We were like, we're on tour, man. Right. Like, this is fucking awesome. And if some super fan called us up and we were still playing and we were struggling, and they said, come to Europe and do this, I wouldn't care if no one shows. Now, they were 20, 30 years into their, after their big, like you said, Mark, their peak. So it's a little bit different going, we're hoping that this is done up well and all that. And, we got that little glimmer of hope where they went to the, let's see, what was it?
No, that festival.
Yeah, there was a festival.
Seating room for 10,000 people.
And 104 or something came. Yeah. They're like...
Painful.
And the mayor was supposed to be there, and there were going to be 15,000 people, but there were 178 people that showed up.
174 is my notes.
174.
Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody lost some money.
I might have counted the band members.
Yeah, there was a ton of marketing. There was there was posters. They were showing people who seemed excited, and nothing. And it was called Monsters of Transylvania, which seems like it should have been a fucking sweet show.
Right.
But 174 people. And then he goes straight back to catering after that. Children's catering corner or whatever it was.
Yeah, when he gets those opportunities, speaking of Lips, when he gets those opportunities put before him, he transforms into like us at 14, 15, 16 years old, and that thought of playing a gig and doing this. And he's done all this stuff already, but every time an opportunity comes up, he's like, yeah. And they were fighting when they were fighting outside that, I don't know if it was in Prague or where it was at. They were outside that club, and Rob was quitting the band. He was done. He find a new drummer. I am done.
Yeah.
And he's out there. Lips is out there trying to talk to him, and he's like, "This place is jam packed."
Yeah.
And they go inside, like 4 or 5 people.
4 or 5. Yeah.
There's a guy sitting in a chair in front of the
In
stage.
the front row. Yeah.
Yeah. I had that in my notes too, where my notes are much less organized than they normally are. But yep, I thought that was hilarious. There was probably 4 or 5 people. Now, to be fair, I don't know if it was because there was cameras there, but at least the few people they had there were rocking out.
Oh, they were into it.
They were really
it.
into it. It's like Anvil has some diehard fans out there that are just never going to forget them and let them come out, which is pretty cool,
Right.
for what it is.
I thought one of the coolest moments was when they met a fan who saw them in '84.
Yes.
From Japan.
Yes.
And he was just hanging out at one of those shows.
Yep.
Yeah,
that was really cool. And he's like, if you ever come back to Japan or whatever. And then we find out, obviously, that was a good choice. But
no spoilers are in. Well, spoilers, but they go back to Japan. And
unlike when I host, I usually give a spoiler alert, but Brice just said, "Fuck it, let everyone everyone drown."
Look, guys, you need to watch the documentary. Go ahead and just stop right now. Go watch it. Come back. You'll be questioning if it's real or not.
Yeah, there you go. Nice job.
But if it is real, then there were a lot of people in Japan who came to their show. When they were expecting to play to like 5 people at 11:30 in the morning.
Right.
Yeah.
What were some standout moments for you guys?
Well, we are kind of already just touching on that, but a moment that I could relate to the most was that bar in Prague where they finally get there and show up and play the show to hardly any people. And, you're hoping to get paid. You're at least hoping to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy tries to pay you in goulash. How disheartening is that? You just worked your butts off essentially on stage. It's hard work to perform like
you
that.
had to set up. You had to played. Like they said to him, you should have told us before we played if you weren't planning on paying us.
Right.
Like then we wouldn't have played, or we would have, and we would have expected what we got. Has anyone ever been on tour?
Never been on tour. Played plenty of shows for nothing.
Yeah.
For goulash.
I don't. I mean, even on tour, we rarely got paid. I mean, you maybe get paid a few bucks. It's nothing, but we took it. I mean, you're gonna take it and you're gonna put it in your gas tank, and hopefully you can get to the next place. But
Abby and I played in a band together, and we laugh about a point. We played a show in Lincoln. We schlepped all our own gear got to Lincoln, practiced for this gig, played the show, split the door, got $6, went over to Jimmy John's, spent $22.
Yeah.
And then went home, and it was great.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, $6 split between 3 people. So.
Yeah.
By the way,
absolutely.
that same night, that was at Duffy's in Lincoln.
Oh, okay.
And a poster in the window of an upcoming show was Anvil. So this was post-release, the original release of the movie. What? Anvil went out and did a U.S. tour, and they played at Duffy's.
Oh my gosh!
In 2018, I believe.
Wow.
So
do we know? Did this? And I can only imagine that it must have. But did this documentary spike their listenership, their fandom? Does anyone know?
It did this year.
Well, yeah, Anvil, you got 4 new fans at least here now.
Yeah. They did say that I've heard them talk about in terms of getting great success after the release of the film. Of course, Lips would say, yes, we've had great success because we have quit our day jobs, and this has been our crappy day job ever since then. So the great thing, and what he calls success, is they were able to do music full time from that point on, and I believe still are doing that.
Good. Good for them.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, if that's what it takes, maybe we need to have someone make a documentary. And we can quit our jobs and
So all being musicians here, how would you identify the term make it when someone says, I want to be in a band that makes it?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think Lips's his definition of that would be different than most people.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I definitely, my definition of that when I was playing more regularly and in bands and stuff would have been a lot different than what I consider it to be now, probably. When I was in high school and shortly thereafter when we were playing, it would have been getting signed to a record label, not understanding truly what that even meant. Like it doesn't mean anything really anymore, besides the fact that, someone was going to put their title and maybe, if you're lucky, help you put some of those records out and put your name on a few flyers and put you on a few shows maybe. But, I think really the only way you're making it, quote unquote, is if you're making money. You're making enough to support yourself and your family doing it. And, I don't think that I would say I want to be in a band that makes it anymore, because in order to make it and make that kind of money and all that, you're working harder than I work right now, probably. I mean, you're on the road all the time. You're on the, you're on stage all the time. You're playing the same songs over and over again. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of, travel. You're away from home all the time. Like, I don't know how people do it, and I have a love for music. So it's a, for my answer, well, and not to mention the type of bands that I would want to play in, they're not going off and making millions of dollars. Right. At best, they're working part-time jobs, to support themselves. Right. And that's at best. So I don't know.
Yeah. They have seen, Anvil's been around long enough that they've seen the industry change around them. And one thing, when I think back to the way it used to be in the 80s and the 90s, bands toured to sell albums. Like the album was the money-making thing. And then Napster happened and flipped that all upside down. And now bands put out an album so that they can go tour and make money. Like the money is in the touring, where it used to be in the album sales. Yeah. And it's hard. It is hard now. They, how many bands, Kiss, I believe, is year 3 or 4 of their farewell tour. Yeah. The tours are so long now. Yep. Yeah. And so drug out in every continent, and tours when I was young, they were like 4 months, 6 months, and they were done. And then you didn't get another album for another year after that. Yeah. So that's changed drastically.
A lot. I don't even know that I'd want to do it now.
It's a lot of work.
If I'm doing it now, it's a passion project, and it's in addition to the rest of my life. Right. Yeah. It's not my entire life.
Oh, am I supposed to answer, Brice?
Yeah. What's your definition of making it?
I don't know. It's definitely changed. Like, kind of what Jeff touched on was, first thoughts is, okay, I make a record and you get signed to a record label and you get to go on a tour. Like, that's success. But now it's like, no, that's really not success. Maybe success to me now is to actually be able to create music that people can connect to and relate to, and maybe get something out of it. Rather than me getting something out of it, having other people pull something out of lyrics or music or the way it feels to them. So it's changed.
The success comes from the amount of plays you get on Spotify.
Yeah.
Like how many, that's always been the goal, I think, for musicians. Like, most musicians, if you talk to them, they'll say, I write music for me and this, that, and this, but the hope in putting it out there, if you truly only wrote it for you, no one would ever hear it. Right. So the hope is that you could put this out there and people, like you said, Abby, connect to it or get something from it, or it instills a certain, emotion, or you can link it to a memory that is important to you, and being able to put that out there now. The good thing about now is, just like this podcast, I can every day I can go onto the Spotify, and I can look at how many people have listened to it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the hope is that number continues to go up, because the more people you reach, the further your passion project is going, and the more ears it listens to, that listen to it, the more that, and maybe this episode will send it the other direction. People will like try to can you take back my, can I take back my play?
Yeah.
You host one time, and then we talk about taking back listens.
Yeah, you put me and Brice in the same room, and you expect it to be successful. I don't know.
I feel like we're having great success so far. Much success. Just wait until I put James in that seat, and we let him host.
Now that's an episode I will listen to.
Yes, sir.
Not that I'm not one of the 5 listeners now, but
Yeah, we got more than that.
oh, good.
Yeah.
But it's not the number that defines the success. It's having, maybe you're playing a local bar show for somebody's birthday. Maybe it's your birthday. You're the lead singer.
Mm-hmm.
And you have 2 fans there that are screaming along the lyrics, and they have names like Cut Loose and Mad Dog.
Mm-hmm. I'm just a mad, bad dog.
That guy chugging that beer in his nostril,
Just drinking it through his nose.
That's impressive.
I've never seen that before in my life, and that kind of made my nose hurt, because I'm going,
I don't want to see it,
no.
but I have now, and
Yep.
I can't get it out of my mind.
When I was a kid, and if my sister's listening to this, she'll laugh. But when I was a kid, we used to. This doesn't sound great, but we used to put straw in our nose and suck Sprite up, and I can't even tell you how bad that fucking hurt.
Oh,
Like, it was instant, like, eyes watering, and and all that. But we did it because it was funny. So I can see why. I think that was Mad Dog who was dumping the beer into his nostril. But yeah, he's just a mad, bad dog.
Yeah, that was Mad Dog.
Mm-hmm.
Cut Loose was the one who got Lips a job.
A job at the.
oh, that guy. Wow.
That could
Yeah.
not have been real, Brice.
That was real.
I've done telemarketing.
But telemarketing sales like that.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh,
My first job out of high school was
Mark.
almost exactly that.
Mark. There's no way that was real.
The people in the background, those were real people, right?
Yeah, that guy egging him on and,
yeah.
and prompting him what to say to push those sales, and he just tanked. Terrible.
Oh,
Talk about that's my nightmare job, is something like that.
It's terrible.
And that looked like an episode of a sitcom. I mean, that didn't look real.
He one of the things he mentioned after that was he struggled so bad with even trying to do the telemarketing, because I think he said his mom had raised him to be polite, and that job is the exact opposite of that, and that is so true.
Yeah.
he thought he could do it while playing his stage character Lips.
Right.
So he was removing himself from the reality
And
of that
Lips
job.
was selling.
And even Lips was like, no, we can't.
I'm too honest for this.
Yeah.
His mom taught him to be polite, but I saw him slamming that guy against the wall when he was not getting paid for that gig.
Yeah. Yeah,
Not
that's
so
true.
polite. But-
Which that was warranted.
Agree.
yeah.
Like they
Agreed.
should have paid him.
That might have been a language barrier thing. Maybe it's customary to slam someone against the wall when they don't pay you, you know?
No.
Know what it's like over
Disagree.
I don't know if this is the direction we're going later, but a reason why Anvil wasn't successful in our eyes.
Management.
Well, yeah, they say management. I think, thinking back to that kindness thing about Lips, is it they just make very dumb decisions, like very low level, like middle school kind of decisions about everything.
Yeah.
Nothing is except they're playing. They just have incredible ability, but they can't make a business decision to save their life.
Which is all comes back to management. If you find somebody who can vouch for you, whose job it is to get you out there. I mean, their goal, something tells me that, if Brice and I start, if we go back 10 years ago and we start a band, right? We're probably not looking, especially knowing like how you guys, like the kind of music that you guys listen to and all that, like we're probably not looking to like main stage arenas. That's not really the goal there. We're looking to tour, play in some skate parks, get some kids moshing and, and diving off the stage and knowing our music. If I go to another state and the kid knows my songs, that's everything.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
But Anvil was wanting arenas. And they had played at least one. And, you've got bands like Anthrax, like Guns N' Roses, like Bon Jovi, like Metallica, talking about how influential you were to them. So they were in they were set up to be that. They were in the right place. They were at the right time. They were writing the right kind of music, and that's what people wanted to hear, right? But something happened, and like you said, it was dumb decisions. It was not taking the next steps. It was not going and doing the right things. It was jumping onto the next album without getting CT involved every time, or whoever, or making sure that it was good, that, and going out and doing what record labels and management should have been doing. But instead of that, they're, like you said, kind of almost stuck in middle school.
Right.
But if they had somebody on their side that was vouching for them, that could have been completely different.
Yeah.
My thoughts anyway.
I bet like they were from 78 to 84, they were, rising. They were doing really good. And then I bet when they got signed to that big Canadian band label, they were like, okay, someone's going to take care of us and manage us and get us stuff. And then they just got overlooked.
And then, sorry.
And then they got talked into switching labels, and then they got dropped. And it was just...
The 80s thing was so Sunset Strip and so California based in everything. It was the whole culture. It was the center of the culture. I always wonder, maybe the Canada had something to do with it.
Yeah.
There were bands that come across the pond that had success, but they're kind of known for music. Canada,
not so much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's something to be said about that as well. And someone even mentioned it in the documentary, I think, saying, I don't want to say that was because they're from Canada, but it was, I think it might have been CT and like the old footage of him.
Yeah.
Scott Ian from Anthrax, by the way, has been in at least 50,000 documentaries about other bands.
Yeah.
Like that's what he does for a living.
Yeah.
And he plays an Anthrax on the side.
Every VH1, like behind the metal, every like Headbangers Ball.
It's
like,
always him.
We need somebody who has a metal look.
Yeah.
with a metal name that people are going to recognize.
High energy, can talk.
That's going to answer our phone calls.
I heard an interview from him earlier this week in kind of prepping for this, and he said that Anthrax started out as an Anvil cover band.
Wow.
Whoa.
Wow.
They weren't called Anthrax at the time, but the genesis of Anthrax, the band just before that.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
And even, I don't remember the guy's name, but he in Twisted Sister, was saying,
Dee Snider.
No,
No,
the
no.
guy from
JJ French. Yeah.
says the Anvil was one of the 3 bands that got them going. Like
Right.
they were basically watching Anvil and going, we can do that and we can do it better.
Right.
Like, let's just keep doing like
If we can't do it better, what's the point?
right. And I got to imagine, when we're, this documentary did a good job of putting the viewers in sort of in the shoes of Lips and Rob and kind of, making them a sympathetic characters. And, I got to imagine that if I'm hearing all of these big names talk about how influential I was to them, there's going to be a lot of, I mean, yeah, you get some pride from that. And you could tell the way Lips was, smiling and going, that's awesome. But all in the same breath, you're also going, well, what the fuck? Why'd we get left behind?
Right.
Like, you are all influenced by us. Like, you were influenced and then you left. Like, not that that's their fault,
Right.
but man, that would feel heartbreaking. Like, God.
And the answer surely must
You're
be
welcome
to go back and get our producer from back in the day and let's do this again and try to
Right.
figure that
Yes.
out. Oh man.
Send him a cassette in the mail,
Yeah.
and he gets back to you.
Yeah.
That I don't recall which festival it was, but that whole kind of backstage scenario where they're back again, they're playing after 20 years, they're going to play this festival, they're backstage and there's other famous musicians and he's like fanboying, like looking like, oh, there's so and so and so.
Yeah.
He runs up to them and like a couple of them completely brush him off.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
don't remember him or don't care or just kind of roll their eyes or whatever. That is just soul crushing.
Yeah, it is.
Because I think they picture themselves at that level, and finally we're amongst our peers, and oh man,
And they've probably played festivals and shows before together.
right.
And
they don't even recognize him.
I think that was in the end when they go to Japan and after their 11:30 set, and then he's running around.
That-
We're out here waiting to meet Ted Nugent.
Right.
Oh my gosh, that's so and so, and just
Yeah.
takes off running.
I think that was earlier. I think that was at
Was it earlier?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that Japan was sort of the send off, the nice
end.
send off at the end.
Okay.
There was some other fest that they were supposed to play, and did they play it? Did they?
I don't know if they played it, if they were just there, but Michael
Yeah.
Schenker was one of the guys, and Carmine Apiece, and just people from my era that I'd be fanboying too. But just a crusher to see them. Oh man.
And we talk about his positivity too. They went on that tour, which was for all intents and purposes pretty sweet. I mean, maybe not for Anvil. Maybe they talked about how many things went wrong. I went on tour once, and a lot went wrong. We still talk about tour problems. Van problems with the police, problems with all this stuff, and I think that's just part of tour. Now, maybe not when you get to, Whitesnake, John Bon Jovi,
Right.
the Ozzy Osbourne, whatever, in those days when they were at their peak. If you're flying in a private jet and maybe you're not having the same kind of issues, but any band worth their salt has been through several tours, and I'll bet you most of them are going to tell you, yeah, there's issues, there's problems. But when he got back, so anyway, my point was the tour was, for all intents and purposes, pretty fucking sweet.
Yeah.
You go to all these different countries, you get to play a thing called Transylvania, Monsters of Transylvania in Romania. And, that's sweet. Even if there's only 100, I wish one of our shows would have had 174 people there.
Right.
Now we're talking apples and oranges here, because this is a band that did have some
Yeah.
clout and some fame. But when he got back and, you see their van roll back to his house, and he's once again catering for kids, you know, and your stomach kind of sinks because you're like, it's just right back to the normal stuff.
Yeah.
And he goes, you know, that things went drastically wrong, but at least it was tour. At least it was something. Like you mentioned, like his never ending positivity. Even when he's frustrated, it doesn't take him very long to come back and go, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I love you, man. I'm sorry. And, you know, when they were fighting and when he and Rob were fighting and Rob walks off and is like, I quit. And he's like, we got to find a new drummer because he's fired. He's fired. And then pretty much he comes back and he's like, yeah, I'm really sorry. Can I talk about a standout moment?
Please do.
Rob Reiner is a painter.
Mm-hmm.
Rob Reiner made a textured painting of a turd in a toilet.
That is a standout moment.
And he was
physically.
Yeah. He was very proud of that.
Mm-hmm.
He had his little hidey hole where no one bothered him, and he liked to paint buildings without people in them. And then he showed us a poop picture. Like he was like rubbing the little turd going, there's plenty of texture on there. And like,
Pretty proud of that.
yeah, he was very proud of that. Those are the kind of things that I go, he's too serious when he's talking about that to make me think that this is real. The whole thing felt like it was something written.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, that was a stand. And we saw at least one penis in this
Oh, yeah.
documentary too.
I don't know why we call him Lips. It could have other nicknames, but
They
Such as Brice. No, I'm interested in hearing what other nicknames.
the guy with a penis.
there's a standout moment for Brice.
What's that standout moment for you, Brice?
I was like, why'd they choose this one? Oh,
By the way, I was impressed that I thought he was a pretty good painter. I mean,
It wasn't bad.
Yeah.
paintings
He's a better drummer than he was painter. But
Oh,
he
yeah.
was
Yeah.
still a good painter. Yeah.
I do like that all the paintings are the album covers. That's
Right.
he's got a knack for it.
Yeah.
A plug here, robreinerart.com.
Right.
You can buy his stuff.
Really?
I looked. Yeah.
Make sure you look up the right Rob Reiner. Otherwise,
How many do you have?
Not the right, just the poop one.
The reprints aren't textured though, like the prints.
There's so much around this story too, the movie and how the movie came to be, and I don't know if it's my turn to talk about a standout moment.
oh yeah,
But it's actually not necessarily in the movie, but the story of how the movie came to be. I don't know how to say his name correctly. Sasha Gervasi, the director, I would assume.
yeah. That's even like a nickname for him.
He was that also sounds like a fake thing, doesn't it? Sasha
it's,
Gervasi.
it's like something Simon,
yeah.
and he just goes with Sasha.
When he was 14, pretty young, and I think he lived in England. These facts are probably all way off. I'm just making this stuff up.
Nobody's gonna check, I promise.
He saw a picture of Lips on the front of a local metal magazine, and he had that same prosthesis that he uses to play his guitar in his mouth in this picture. He saw the picture and he thought, I'm buying this magazine and I'm taking this home because this is going to piss my mom off. He bought it, looked in it, read about the band, bought their music, became a huge fan at a young age.
That's
and
fun.
when Anvil went over there to tour, he went and saw them in person, ended up getting backstage at 15 years old, mega fan, ended up after the show showing them all around the local area, getting to know the band. Rob invited him, would you be interested in being our drum tech?
Oh wow.
Which I learned today, Anvil has a habit of just grabbing their fans. And again, these terrible management decisions.
Yeah.
Can you build us a website or
Well,
whatever?
that's interesting.
You're our roadie now.
Yeah, that's
So-
interesting.
So they took him out, and he did the whole summer. They had to meet with this kid's dad. Can you imagine being a dad, your son saying, this band wants me to tour with them?
Oh,
Okay.
the band that you showed us the picture of with the
Yeah.
as you so eloquently said, the prosthesis.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they met with the
Yeah.
dad, and
Wow.
I don't know what's wrong with the dad, but the dad was like, okay,
Sure.
like dad of the year.
His dad was like, yeah, this will make your mom mad. Go for it.
Yeah.
So imagine being that kid and being 15 and
Oh my
getting to
God.
tour for the summer as a drum tech.
Wow.
And then he completely forgot about them, went on with life. They lost touch with each other. Like, I don't know, 20 years later, he becomes a filmmaker, runs into Lips, and is mind blown because he realizes
He's still playing.
they are still trying to make it. They never stopped. And he was wearing the same Scorpions t-shirt that he was wearing like 20 years earlier.
If that's not like a filmmaker's dream,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
like just bump set Spike for a
Yeah.
filmmaker to go, wait a minute, you're still playing?
Yes.
I gotta put this on film.
Exactly. And it's
we got to film the rise and fall of Anvil.
unbelievable.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
that's pretty awesome. And I do think it's interesting when you mention like they grabbed their fans and basically gave them jobs, and you know, first of all, that reminds me of like Flight of the Conchords or something. Like the what's her name, their biggest fan, Mel, yeah, you know, and then Reese Darby's character, their manager in
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
anyway, it just reminded me a lot of like of that when they're touring and there's just all these problems going on. Anyway, yeah, it's interesting.
Speaking of good management, yeah.
Oh yeah, they could have gone with some restart. What was his name?
I don't know. I can't think of it just because you can't think of it.
Do you guys watch Flight of the Conchords?
I have, but
I'm
as
sorry.
far as names,
Yeah.
it's escaped me.
If you get a chance, you have to look at Anvil's website. Speaking of bad management decisions,
Oh,
no.
it is the worst.
I think the fans just made it. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
they really did anything with
That's
it.
I was so shocked at the website that I had to do some research on the website, and that's what I found out. Fans made it, and so they're like, "Hey, great, go with that. That's our official site."
That's
It is
Yeah.
terrible.
made a
From, like-
website. That's ours.
Yeah.
the more you talk about this stuff, the more I agree that, and nothing against these guys, I just think they don't have a clue how to run
Right.
a quote unquote band business, you know, because that's what it is.
Mhm.
And they don't have a clue how to do it, and they don't have a clue how to get the help to do it.
Right.
You know, they're leaning on their family. You know, his sister paid for the
Right.
the record, and you know, they're just, to them, that's all it needs. So we just need this record, and then we're gonna, you know, we just need this, and we're gonna be big. We're gonna go on this tour, and then you know, it's gonna be awesome. You know, I will say, so they did a pretty good job with filmmaking when they set up the final show at that Japanese place, and you know, they're like, I got a call, you know, in Tokyo, and they sent them there, and then they're upset that it's at 11:30 in the morning, and they're, you know, going, did we really go through all this just to play in front of 5 people and all that? And they are walking out, and then they turn that corner, man, and when they see that group of screaming people, like, man, I felt so pumped for them.
Yeah.
I'm like, yes. And he runs out. He doesn't care that his guitar cord is like getting hung up on the stage, and he's going out there and he's headbanging with these Japanese people. And I will say, I knew that if anyone was going to pull this out for Anvil, it was going to be the Japanese,
Right.
because I spent 4 years in Japan and played music in Japan. This isn't to take anything from Anvil, but they support music, and they have no problem going out anytime and being there and getting lost in it and enjoying it. They're not they're just so much damn nicer than the people and the fans in the United States. I mean, I would go play as many shows as you'd give me in Japan again, because there was never any judgment felt. There was never any hesitancy to enjoy the music and to get into it and to come out. And if you invited them to a show, they would come to the shows. And like, it just, there wasn't this elitist mindset in the Japanese culture for music, even like hardcore, metal, punk, all that stuff, which was the bands that we were playing in. And they were coming out. And people like that, if you saw them here, you would never think that person's into metal, you know, but they're at the show, they're whipping their hair around, you know. And so I was so happy. It made me feel so they're walking around Tokyo. I'm going, I've been there. I've been to that street, that intersection that they're standing in. And I'm going, and we were playing shows, and they were coming out and enjoying it and telling us, you know, they gave us a Japanese nickname that I don't know the words for it, but what we come to find out is that they all called us the Scary Boys, because we would all come to show them. We were much taller most of the time. And so
Zilla.
Yeah, pretty much. But anyway, I was really happy when they went back to Japan and got that pop, you know, of and that what that must have done for their what's the word? Their
sanity,
self-esteem.
Yeah, yes, self-esteem. You know, their confidence, I think, is what I was looking for. Like, you know, and now they can go off to record Thumb Hang and
Wow.
After 34 years.
Yeah,
I agree with that. You're talking about the filmmaking portion of that,
Mm-hmm.
the way they set that up and that walk, and you just kind of know that the end of the movie is coming. You have no idea what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Is it empty? And we're going to end the movie with Lips being hopelessly hopeful of the future.
Hair wisping in the wind as he's like crying.
And they're walking, you know, back through the tunnels, and you're wondering, is this Spinal Tap? They're going to get lost and they're going to go the wrong direction. But that build up to that, and when they finally flash to the crowd and it's just packed and these people are ready to go bananas, it's just like, I can only imagine. I would have loved to have seen it in the theater, because I would have stood up.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure.
It was
I'd
so
be
cool.
that guy.
I love that he didn't waste time getting off that stage and into the crowd to start that song.
Yeah.
Like, he immediately saw that there were that many people, and he just went with it.
Yeah.
Abby and I were listening today. They were talking about when they, on the original release of the film and on the re-release of the film, they did what was called the Anvil Experience, where they would do showings in major cities, play the whole movie, and then the band would come out and play immediately afterwards. They would go right from that scene into the
that's
band
cool.
going, and people going bananas. That would have been so fun.
We need a follow-up with Anvil now. Like,
Yeah.
I want to, maybe we can call them and have them on this show. They've done a lot. We could just tell them we're big fans. If I get them on the phone, you all are coming back over and we're going to talk to them, because I would love to have a follow-up on what life has been like after this.
Yeah.
You know, that's the hardest thing about documentaries, especially like biographical or, you know, or music ones, or, you know, because you can only get so far, because it stops at the present and then it continues to happen. So how much has happened after that? What, you know, like, it would be really interesting to know. Are they still playing? Which I think they are. It sounds like.
And one thing I want to know, we find out, you know, as the credits are rolling and stuff, that the bass player for that tour and everything, he ends up with the manager who booked the European tour.
Yep.
And so they got a new bass player now. I'm wondering if they're looking for one now.
Wait, what?
Was it the bass
Now-
player or the guitar player?
I missed this detail.
It's the bass player.
Was it the, okay.
Yeah.
So
Thought it was
the
the
manager
I
that
thought it was the guitarist.
Yeah,
with the longer
lady
hair.
who booked the tour in Europe,
she married a guitar player, right?
Yeah.
Or was it?
I thought it was the bass player.
I think it was,
Okay.
Pretty sure it was the
she
guitar
married
player.
one of them.
Okay.
She married one of them.
Because the bass player was the bald guy, right?
Yeah.
and the guitar player had the long,
Had the
like,
hair.
wavy
Yeah.
hair.
Yeah.
My bad.
Okay.
You could
All right.
you could tell in the documentary that they were definitely a couple even before they shot that wedding
Yeah.
scene. Like
Yep.
they're always together.
Yeah.
Although I
out.
agree,
Okay,
marrying the manager when the manager is terrible seems like a bass player thing to do.
Oh.
Yeah. I would agree
Yeah,
too. Yeah.
okay.
Oh, shit.
I mean, what do you do when
Shots
your
fired.
manager is so terrible, but your guitar player is married to them? That's
You
an
quit the
awkward
band.
situation.
I mean, bye.
That's a terrible decision.
Yeah.
And well, I think it also said something that she was looking to book the next Scorpions tour or
Yeah.
something like
right
that.
at
yeah.
the end.
Yeah. And I didn't follow up. I didn't see how that went.
I wanted to
but-
call the Scorpions like, hey, you
How'd
need
that
to watch
go?
this. You need to watch
Yeah.
this film first.
They're like, yeah, dude, that was like 15 years ago. We know.
Oh,
we know we got another documentary coming out.
Yeah, she's on our documentary too. And
the
fucking up
whole
our-
thing with her booking trains not booking trains.
right.
And the travel and just what an absolute disaster.
That's why they didn't get paid for that gig, is because there
They
was
were
such a
late.
language barrier and they couldn't figure out how to get to the venue.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But we also find out towards the end that lawsuits were settled and they did get paid
In goulash.
No.
like £100.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100 euros or whatever,
100 euros.
which
yeah.
is how much
I
if
don't
we
know.
go into US dollars.
It's not life-changing money.
not
No.
it's
No, it's not.
It's not
more than
enough-
$6,
Not enough for a
but
ticket home.
I want to mention one of my favorite kind of almost like punk rock moments of the film when they went to Stonehenge and they weren't supposed to touch Stonehenge, and he's like, I gotta touch it. And then he jumps the thing, goes and touches it, and runs back. I'm like, yes, that's so fucking cool.
I'm more interested in its healing powers.
Yeah. And then he probably jumped back over the fence. Sorry.
I love that. That's me. I have to, like, if I'm at a museum and it says don't touch this.
Mental note, don't invite
Okay,
him to
well.
our museum,
Right.
Bryce.
Been there.
Yeah,
Been there,
he's
touched
been.
that.
You see,
Damn it.
you know all those handprints I wiped
Cleaned
off the
off, yeah.
windows and everything?
Yep. The family dynamics, I think, are worth being talked about here. He wanted, Lips wanted to prove his father wrong, that his efforts would be worth it. No one in his family for a long time really seemed to support him, and eventually, you see that Lips, his sister, did fund the tour, but they were all kind of sitting there talking and going, he basically he's making a mistake here. And I don't know. I can't confidently say that if my, little brother was 50 years old and still doing this and wanting to, that I could feel that support of him, that I would want to get, I don't know what the equivalent of, 5,000 euros was, but I don't know that I'd want to put that kind of money into, my brother's dream for that at that age. And, so I do think that it was pretty interesting that, that they,
yeah. I sorry, Bryce. Speaking of brothers and sisters.
Would you?
Yeah, would I? No, I was definitely moved at that point in time because I could put myself in that situation, not saying that I would fund Bryce's dream.
But you would think about it?
I would totally think about if I had
thinking
the
about
money.
it's the easy
Yeah.
part,
Yeah.
Put
But to
that in my
be
notes.
to be that supportive of your brother and to just be like, this is really important to him.
Yeah.
And I'm going to support you no matter what.
Yeah. And, sisters, man, they're great.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah. They're like the best.
Yeah.
Keep going. Keep
They're
Let him
like
finish.
let you borrow money all the time.
And
what? Wait, what?
Wait, what?
Also, you have the added pressure of when you're trying to decide to support your sibling of having cameras there.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
whatever decision you make is going to be a part of a documentary, most likely.
Yep.
So
This documentary will go down in history. And
Right.
remember those festivals we played where thousands of people came and watched us?
I don't remember that.
They might watch this documentary and see what you did. Are
And
you
then-
going to deprive them of a 13th album?
No way.
This is
How
13.
could you? I did think it was almost like too quick of a moment, but when they talked about Rob's father was a Jew in Auschwitz,
Right.
and they talked about he was a fighter and he had pretty much every right to not make it out of there alive, but he did. And then it's sort of telling when Rob's like, yeah, my dad said, do what makes you happy because, that's what's important. I'm here with you. I'm like, dang, that's cool. Like, that's a heck of a story.
Yeah.
Abby, can you share what you told me earlier about the Auschwitz thing?
Well, they did go to Auschwitz and have thought. They have a trailer for like a sequel of this documentary with Sasha, and Lips and Rob and Sasha all went to Auschwitz. And
wait, a sequel to
Anvil.
Anvil.
Yes.
Yes.
What?
Did this get made?
No. They're just talking.
They filmed parts there. They were over
for
there.
2 years.
Yeah.
The film crew followed them for
It's
2
not
years.
been released.
But there's a couple stories. I'll let you go ahead.
Well,
and
now I can't remember which stories stuck out to
the
you
names
the most. But
when they saw the names,
oh gosh,
they
you go because
Rob
you're
saw they went through the books there at Auschwitz, and both Rob, Lips, and the cameraman found family members that were there at Auschwitz.
My God.
Wow.
And so they had like this mind-bending moment of there's a pretty good chance our ancestors may have known each other.
Whoa.
and there,
crazy.
yeah,
Whoa.
and there. Now I remember. There's also a pile of suitcases there, and one of the names on the suitcases was a relative of, I think, either Lips or Rob. I can't remember which one.
Wow.
But so there's this really close connection, and that's when it really hit him. Like these,
Our bond is deeper than just going to high school together, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We got to write more
We gotta write-
666 songs. Let's talk about if we dig deeper and lift up her skirt, then which by the way, what was that? The Shirley Show?
Yes.
Oh,
When
man.
that talk show host is reading their lyrics.
So cringy.
So funny though. And he's sitting there just like smirking like, yeah, you realize I was like a teenager when I wrote this. And yeah.
The
But
crowd reactions as she's reading it
no.
were great
Yeah.
too.
yeah, the like there's probably a sign above their head that says like act disgusted.
Yeah.
Applause here.
You guys act shocked when I said their lyrics weren't very deep.
About as deep as they come, man.
Right.
but yeah, that
Sorry,
was that.
Abby.
No, you're good.
I
that was
hijacked that.
such a bunny rabbit trail. I love it.
Yeah.
I'll just shoot the rabbit. But back to Rob's dad, like Lip said, like, hey, this was not in the documentary itself, but this other interview I heard. And it was like, if he died in Auschwitz, like there would be no Rob, there would be no Anvil. And he's just like thinking back on that whole family line, like, wow, what if things went differently?
Yeah.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Wow.
So that
Dang.
if there is a sequel, I sure hope that footage somehow becomes available because I would love to see that.
yes.
I think we need to figure out when this sequel's happening because
Yeah, and if it got, delayed or put on the back burner, maybe we need to start a petition and just get it going again.
yeah. If anyone out there knows about this sequel, info.talkumentary@gmail.com.
Maybe we'll ask them when they're on the show sometime.
Ooh.
I'm not kidding you. I might reach out to them and see if we can do a bonus. Maybe that'll be like our first like Patreon interview where people can hear us talk to Rob
I-
and Lips.
I would be willing to pay €100 to get them on here.
I will kick in goulash.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Ooh.
Deal.
So how did you guys feel as the documentary wrapped up?
Hopeful for me. Like, I don't know, whatever your art is, if you stay true to that and you love it and you enjoy doing it, and you get that feeling when you share it with people and they enjoy it, it really made me think when I was 15 or 16 years old and I went to my first rock concert and I come home and it's like, okay, this is it. I'm going to be a rock star. I had decided, and then you get in a band and you start to dream about making it, whatever that term is. Mm-hmm. It made me think back to those times. And then obviously that never happened. But you look back at the experiences that you've had, the bands that you played in and stuff like that, and how much fun it was to share something you have created and just throw it out there, because it's very nerve-wracking. As any artist would know, when you create something, you have no idea how people are going to respond to it, and to just throw it out there is this very vulnerable moment to do that. And even if it doesn't flourish, if you don't get murdered, it feels good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, they, just by doing this movie, they made themselves so vulnerable.
Oh yeah.
If they're artists, they have that same mentality of wanting to share their art and make themselves vulnerable to throw it to the wolves and see what happens. Even more so with having a movie made about your life and your family and your failures.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Failures. That's the
kind of thing that they stick with this movie is like Anvil, the band that is destined to fail.
Yep.
Yeah.
For them to be men enough to be that vulnerable and hope that it succeeds and it resonates with people, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
I wonder how much of their creation of this film, though, was them thinking that this was their chance to showcase their new rise to fame. Like, they probably didn't realize that this was going to be essentially a failure, a story of failure.
Right.
They probably thought this is the rise of the phoenix, from the ashes comes greatness. And that's probably what it ended up feeling like. They went to Japan, it ended on the high note, and they're hoping, that it's going to keep going up from there. And, just like every other decision in their careers, I wonder how much of it was, we thought that this was going to be the next big thing. And clearly it did have some positive effect if they're doing, what the Anvil experiences and things like that. But, I'm in agreement with what you were saying.
Yeah, it definitely makes you think, like, what dreams and aspirations that you've had that you've just like given up on because it didn't turn out the way you thought it would initially, and you saw failure and just turned around and gave up. And then you watch this and it's like so many failures and so many down points in this film, and they never gave up.
Yeah. And long before the the movie was ever made, they were dealing with failures. I mean, long before. But we're coming in when they're working construction. They're doing the whatever, and there's a lot of missed opportunities prior to that. And I felt it when you just said, how many things did we give up on in our lives to be where we are now? Well, in some ways, that was the smart decision. Like if I was Anvil's been playing since those guys were in high school.
Mm-hmm.
If I was still trying to make the band that I was in high school, first of all, I'd be the laughing stock of the fucking world. But I just can't imagine trying to hold on so tightly to something that just time and time and time again has not worked for you. How do you keep that kind of energy behind something like that? Are you living off of a high that happened decades ago? And that's probably it, right? I mean,
How many times would our family sit us down for an intervention
right.
in those years?
Yeah.
Like, listen, we support your music and stuff. Get a day job.
Mm-hmm.
Go do something, have a plan. This is not working. They probably had that multiple times
Mm-hmm.
long before the movie was ever made.
Right. I gotta wonder too. So one thing we didn't see in this documentary that I expected to see more of, I'm glad that I didn't, but I expected to see more of, was the rock and roll lifestyle when it comes to partying, like drugs and alcohol, sex, rock and roll kind of thing. There wasn't a lot of that. Now, I don't know if that didn't happen. I was glad to see that, we barely even saw them drinking alcohol. I mean, let alone a couple cigarettes here and there, know, like, my hope is that maybe these guys are just really into the music, and that's not, because you're even looking at some of the guys that they're, fanboying over, and you can see the evidence of a lifetime of drug use on their face, you know, and I was happy that we didn't see them, going down that road, that what's keeping them going is a true love for their art. Do we know? Did we think about, is this something that, does anybody have any insight on that? Or is this just something that didn't really matter to them?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they did have one thing where they said, we're not going to show that.
Could be.
Maybe it might be because of Lips's mom or something, like, I don't want my mom seeing that or something. It doesn't seem like they said no to anything. Like, there was no rules as far as filming, but
I don't know if they took note that the documentary was being filmed. I think they were just happy to get their roadie and drum tech back.
Right.
right.
Yeah.
They one thing they didn't touch on, which really surprised me, was the schlepping of gear in and out and setting up and doing all their own stuff. Because that's one of the big differences, other than finances, between them and their peers from the 80s.
Yeah.
They're still hauling their own gear at 55 years old or whatever, carrying their amps. And some of them, that bar in Prague, like the load in, load out there, it's like a bomb shelter.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised they didn't kind of emphasize the struggle of that.
That's the worst part.
It
The
is.
worst part of playing a show.
Is.
You especially, I mean, you're a drummer, right, Mark?
Right.
First of all drummers that have played shows know that you most of the time don't have any help with that.
Right.
You might have help coming in, but you definitely don't have help going back out.
Right. Right.
And that's a process. I mean, look at all, especially when you're playing behind two kick drums and, a 12-piece set with, 15 cymbals. I play on a 5-piece, and that's hard enough.
And he can't, he's in that genre, and that's part of their look. He can't change that up. You're always carrying that mega kit around.
Yep. Yeah. And probably with no help. So,
right.
Not to say my bandmates never helped, but most of the time it was just on the way in.
Right. And sometimes you didn't want it. So
I usually took it though.
Yeah.
Personally. Like, hell yeah.
There was that scene in the beginning though, when they were showing Lips struggling in the snow trying to get this food delivered to the school.
Yeah.
And it did remind me of Loden and
Pulling
and,
amps.
Yes,
Yeah.
pulling amps. I'm
Yeah.
like, that easily could be a guitar amp right there.
Where the camera stayed behind the fence, and it could, like every scene, it's snowing in Canada. I mean, it's miserable.
Sorry.
And he's trying to push that wobbly cart with the coolers for the food
It's like stacked
catering
high.
thing, and struggle because you go, and he goes on this long, detailed thing about the menu and the schedule of the menu and shepherd's pie, and sometimes we'll mix it up and have this and meatloaf and then shepherd's pie again, and
Or sometimes we'll do shepherd's pie 2 in a row just to throw it off. So.
That's I believe that's the very first scene of the movie.
First time you meet him,
Post the famous people talking about the band,
right?
Yeah.
And you see their glimpse of success, and then they flip to him catering, and man, they make that job look depressing.
Yeah.
And it, in my opinion, genius filmmaking.
Yeah.
Because you did it. You built this band up to look like fucking rock stars.
Boom, you're in a minivan.
Shepherd's pie and
Yeah.
meatloaf, and then it's meatloaf and then pizza, then it's meatloaf and then shepherd's pie and then pizza, and then
That rock star 80s dream that's straight into reality.
yeah, absolutely.
How many other bands, zero I would guess, would just that very first scene let you that into their current life?
Nope.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. I think that's why the film was so successful, was because it was
Real, raw.
Yeah, it was real and raw, and they trusted Sasha. Sasha was a fan and a friend of theirs. And I think if anybody else went in there and tried to film that, they wouldn't have gotten the scenes that they got.
Yeah.
Not a bad directorial debut.
No, not at all.
Kidding.
Do you guys feel like there were any stones left unturned?
Just where are they now? That's my, I know they went ahead of, they came back and they did some post credit kind of, updates, but for me it's always what happened next.
Yeah. Abby?
Yeah, kind of the same thing. Are they going to be touring through Nebraska again?
Right. I would
Give me
definitely
a
travel
ticket.
to Duffy's to go see that.
Absolutely.
It's been 15 years since that movie was made. That 15-year span is longer than 98% of bands last.
Oh, for sure.
What have they been doing in this time? Are they still able to not work their day jobs,
Did Rob have kids too? And
I don't know.
would their kids form a band?
That'd be cool.
Lips's kid definitely looks like he could form a band.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think Rob's son, he in the old early 2000s fashion had the side bang.
Yes, he
behind
did.
the drum
Okay,
kit.
yeah.
So
That was Rob's kid, wasn't it?
yeah,
I'm just saying this. Maybe it stays Anvil and it just goes on with another generation at some point.
And then
Smaller anvils.
And then Anvil as parents, how do they lecture their kids about chasing your dreams? Like, you need to get a day job.
You need to get a dream.
Right.
Quit doing all this job.
I don't know why you're.
Right.
I don't know why you're being so responsible. Go out and do something irresponsible.
Yeah. I
Start a band.
one thing that
Ultimate
I
irresponsibility.
wanted the documentary to delve into deeper is we meet two of their fans, and their fans are credited Cut Loose and Mad Dog.
Mm-hmm.
We find out more about Cut Loose. We know that he is a successful over-the-phone salesman. But we don't ever see anything from Mad Dog after him chugging a beer through his nose.
Yeah, sinus chugging a beer.
That is it. And I want a VH1 Where Are They Now for Mad Dog.
If the rise and fall of Mad Dog, if the peak is that beer chugging in that bar, I'd hate to see what the other.
You'd hate to see it. I really want to see it.
The character development, the backstory, it was all there.
Those are some dudes.
And then they just leave us with
Nothing.
Right.
here's Anvil. But what about Cut Loose and Mad
I think one of them, I don't remember which one of them has passed away. since the movie. I
Oh,
don't
now
know.
I feel bad.
I'm guessing that's going to be Mad Dog.
Probably the
I'm gonna
beer through the nose.
I'm gonna guess the guy who had no hesitation.
You don't get a nickname like that and expect to live long.
I should have did my homework. I should know that.
Yeah. Well, maybe if we go to an Anvil show, we'll see one of them there, you know? You
Yeah.
never know.
Yeah, and we'll have to figure it out, which
Who
which
it
one's
is.
left. Yeah.
Well, if we see Cut Loose, then we know Mad Dog's dead.
Yeah.
Right.
Rest in peace, Mad Dog.
Eh.
We don't even know if he's dead.
He's listening to this like, no, it was the
goddamn
other guy.
I'm not dead.
Yeah, reach out to us though. We'll have
He's
you
like, click on my name on IMDb. You'll see, and I'm in all these other successful things.
on. Yeah.
Like,
Where we at, Bryce?
well,
We didn't talk about ratings beforehand, did we?
Oh,
we need to talk about ratings, but I've already figured it out. We're going to rate this, and each week we have a unique rating system. This week, we're rating it in Flying V guitars,
all
with
right.
1 Flying V guitar being as bad as a venue refusing to pay, and 10 being as magical as walking past Rob Reiner's childhood home as he's practicing drumming.
Nice.
Jeff, how many Flying V guitars would you give this?
You know, I really enjoyed this. I think this deserves 8 Flying Vs.
8 Flying Vs.
Yep, and because I really I felt for these guys, I became invested in these guys. I think the storytelling was well done. They did everything right with showing how important they were, to showing their struggle, to showing an unrelenting like work ethic when it came to that. They might not have been the brightest, crayon in the box. They might not have been making the smartest decisions, but I think even Rob or one of them said it in the documentary. You can't say that there's a band that hasn't wanted this more or worked harder, or, I can't remember exactly how he said it, but something along the lines of, this is what, we've done what we can do, and we're still doing it. And we're going to continue to do it. I had a lot of respect for them. I think they made a lot of poor decisions in their life, and I don't necessarily support that, but I think that they seemed like very sympathetic guys, and the documentary was it made me feel good. It made me feel successful. It made me feel sad. It made me, all the things that you want to feel. It felt like a movie. It played out like a movie, and I think it deserves an 8. 8 Flying Vs.
Wow.
That's great. Mark,
You're great.
Mark, what would you, how many Flying Vs?
Trying to just, you asking this question makes me think, what more would I have wanted to see out of this movie? I really wish they would have had the Auschwitz scene in there. I would have loved that, but I didn't know about that, so I really can't count that against them. But I'd probably also, I'm going to go 8.5 double neck Flying Vs.
Excellent.
I love it. I've been a fan of music documentaries for years. I love it. All genres. I'll watch just about anything. And this one stands, I don't know about above every other one, but separate and on its own, because there hasn't been anything else done like this. And I don't think number one, you definitely don't have to be a fan of 80s metal music to get something out of this documentary.
Right.
You don't have to be a musician to get something out of this documentary, or an artist, or Canadian, or whatever. I think you can take something out of this movie that maybe redefine your own view of your own success, and what is it, or at least take a look at it and say, what am I striving for? What am I driving for? Maybe I already have it. Maybe the success that I've been hoping for, I have it. And think it's always good and healthy to kind of look at any situation like that and from a different perspective and kind of redefine what success is. Because in a quick glance, it's easy to say Anvil never achieved success. They always sucked. They always lose at everything they do. Well, they've been playing live music and sharing their art with people for longer than some of us here have been alive.
Yep.
And that's pretty awesome. Much respect to that. So.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Well said.
Yeah. Abby, you had to follow the podcast. You had to email us. You had to like some things just to get us all to watch this.
I did.
What would you rate it?
And why do you regret your decision?
Yeah. I don't think we have enough time for that, but I will go, okay, just to be weird, I'll do 8.5 Flying V's and a half Gibson SG to make it a solid 9.
Are
Yeah.
those axes on fire, though?
Just painted flames on them.
Can I take my bandsaw to them while they're playing and we can see what kind of noise they make?
Absolutely.
Okay, very good. Okay.
Yeah.
9.
Yep, definitely. And yeah, you guys have already kind of touched on the reasons why, how thought-provoking it is to really think about what success is. And I loved that I left watching this documentary thinking about my own life and inspired to do more and to create more. And so, yeah, that's why I'm going with a solid 9.
And hopefully it inspired you to tease your hair out too. Like,
Right.
a lot
80s
bigger.
levels.
Ooh.
Come on, Abby.
I did do that, like, short hair in the back, tease it up back in the day.
90s thing.
Yeah, I mean,
That was more like
early
2000s
How much of it
scene
was
kid
How much
look.
of it was in your face and like crimped and like tied and kind of
Oh,
straight
it
down?
very. It was dyed black and purple with a little blonde.
Yep.
Yeah, you can picture it.
MySpace.
A lot of layers.
I'll look
lot
up your
of layers.
MySpace later.
Oh man.
Was
Ooh,
I in your top friends?
probably.
Good.
Probably.
It was always safer to put family in top friends because then friends wouldn't get as mad.
Yeah.
You and Tom. Wasn't that guy's
Yes.
name?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, Tom. Yep.
The MySpace guy?
Yeah. He's still in my top ones. That's great guy. Well, I gave it a 8.5 Flying V's
Oh.
because I thought it was very good. And when it got done, like I had to listen to an album. I, straight up listen to metal on metal. It's a banger for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I am not a huge 80s music fan, which is shocking, I know. But I love Anvil now.
Yeah. Consider me a fan.
Consider me a fan, Anvil. I will come to any show that is
Within
reasonable.
an hour or two. Yeah.
If
And-
you come to me and play, I will definitely go.
Yeah, if I'm somewhere and you happen to be playing,
And it's within my price range.
and on a weekend
not-
night.
It's
and
not a Thursday.
yeah,
We record on Thursdays.
yeah. And if it's less than 100 euros, and there's no lawsuit that drags on for years to get that 100 euros from me, I'll
Right.
straight up pay for it. So that gives us a documentary rating of 8.5.
Woo.
I
Did you
think
do
if my
that
math
math
is right.
live?
Flying V's.
Flying V's.
Flying V's and a little bit of a Gibson SG in
Yeah.
there.
That means we're at least walking down the same block as Rob Reiner's childhood home as he's practicing drumming.
We can hear him in the distance.
It's magical. We're thinking, wow, this is heavy.
Is that thunder?
That was
or
his
is it his
toy.
drums?
That was toy.
Pretty tight. Well, Jeff, what do we got next week?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, next week I will be joined by 2 people who I served in the U.S. Navy with to talk about a documentary called Aircraft Carriers, Guardians of the Sea, that takes us onto an aircraft carrier during its rim pack. What do they call it? It's a a simulated battle, basically, and they just sort of talk about aircraft carriers and all that. But it mostly just gave me an excuse to meet up with some of my old Navy buddies and talk about old sea stories. So, have you guys ever heard of that one? Seen it? Anything like that?
Nope. Interested though.
Yeah,
Want to?
it's I've watched it. Full disclosure, we've already recorded that episode. It's a good documentary. It's something that they made for like IMAX, right? So there's a lot of cool visuals in it. But I think personally that our episode on it is a lot better than what the documentary was. So you don't have to go watch it if you don't want to in order to enjoy that episode. So I think it's gonna be really cool. Brice, did you prepare the outro, or you want me to hit it?
Hit it, Jeff.
Okay. So join us next week on our aircraft carrier as we launch off the catapult and then catch back on with the arresting gear, one documentary at a time. Go out, rate, and review our podcast on your favorite podcast streaming services. Let us know what you think of our show. If you want to connect to our crew, look for @Talkumentary Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, or shoot us an email at info.talkumentary@gmail.com. Abby Necker,
Yes.
congratulations on winning. I hope this was all you hoped it would be.
And more.
And more. Oh, good.
Wow.
Do you have anything going on that you want to plug? Anything that you like? Something on TikTok you want someone to see?
Bands?
Any bands? Are you playing any bands right now?
Not the second.
Are you
no.
a guitar player?
Oh no, bass player.
Oh, it runs in
Yeah.
the family, huh?
Yeah. Well,
Nice.
Bryce was inspired by
genetics.
me, so
Fair enough.
I
Fair
was bass player before him and vocalist.
I just thought it had less strings.
It does.
Perfect.
I know. Great. No chords.
Yeah. Well, unless you're real good.
Well.
Shane, if my buddy Dan Ogle's listening to this, he's a guitar player who then went and started playing bass, and he made everyone who played bass look bad because he was so good at it. Then he went back to guitar. Now he's playing drums in a band, so good job, Dan. Anyway, Abby, thank you for being here. I kind of cut you off. Do you have anything going on that you need to tell the world about?
I mean, nothing that exciting at this moment.
No? All right.
Nope.
Well, thank you for being here, and thanks for inviting Mr. Mark.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks for being here, man. Your insight into Anvil and all things 80s metal
Heck
was
yeah.
good. Well, with that being said, Brice, well done hosting, sir.
Yeah.
How do you feel? How do you feel about your first time hosting a podcast?
Oh man,
What rating system are we using?
we are
Are we
using.
going around with us?
Yeah, we are. We're using a 1 through 2 rating system. 2 being, he took adequate notes going into this, and 1 being could have done more note taking beforehand.
When you say adequate notes going into this, you were literally going here.
Yeah,
Going
Typing
into this.
in your car while you're
Yes. That's what you mean, correct?
that is
Siri, take a
not-
note.
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, again, wonderful having you guys here. Thank you, listeners, for listening to our bonus episode, The Story of Anvil. I'm sure we'll do more contests and things like that. So if you thought that this was the most fun episode that you've ever listened to, and you want to be a part of our family, make sure you pay attention to our social media. So on behalf of Mr. Brice over there, Mark, Abby, our contestant winner. I like the booze. Sorry. And DJ in the post-production booth, who's going to have so much fun with this episode.
Sorry about my phone.
Sorry.
So,
Unthought of,
Brice.
unthought out.
Mark, Abby, I'm Jeff Kolaski, your host. I want to thank you for listening. Hope you keep your minds open and be kind to each other. Later, players.
Later, players.
Sorry.
Bye.